welcome back to Radical Podcast where we talk about, as the name suggests, radical ideas, radical change, radical new ways of looking at the world around us and how it all works, looking at ourselves, accepting hard truths about ourselves in order to bring about a radical change within ourselves. Truths like there cannot possibly be any such thing as free will within an interconnected, interdependent world. It doesn't work. That's an uncomfortable truth. It creates a visceral reaction in most people where you recoil and you think, no, I have free will. Of course I have free will. I perceive free will. I observe myself making decisions and doing things based on my will and what I like and what I want and my goals and my dreams and so on and so forth. But it's all an illusion. It just our brains are very good at rationalizing decisions. They don't make decisions. Decisions happen. They happen as a result of your current neural structure, your current physiology, the environment you're in. You know, everything from your level of hunger to including your blood sugar levels, everything from your cortisol levels and adrenaline responses, and all of these things are happening in response to your environment. And it's entirely autonomous. It's entirely unconscious. It's entirely something that is not part of your will, but that very much affects your behavior and how you interact with others. So it's a harsh truth, but it's true, and it fits. It fits with science. It fits with what we know about the world we live in and the systems that are intertwined within it. So that's, there's many uncomfortable truths. Uncomfortable truth like, borders are just an idea, and the reason for them has nothing to do with protecting you, and it has nothing to do with protecting your culture or your way of life. It has everything to do with protecting the resources. By the way, you are considered resources. That is why there is the name human resources in just about every corporation, because they consider you a resource. So borders are a way of protecting the resources within a given geographic area. Who owns these resources? Not you. Unless I happen to be talking to a member of the, 0.001%. Unless one of you folks is tuning in which case, welcome. This is for you too. I don't mean to vilify you. But the simple fact is that the way the systems have been designed is in a hierarchical structure that channels wealth and power up to the top from the bottom. It's a siphon, a vacuum, from the poorest to the richest, all the way up the chain. With all the energy expended coming from them, all the, all the real work, all the real processing of everything done by the bottom. But I digress. I'm talking about uncomfortable truths. So if you're, a very nationalistic person and you're very much, Canada first or USA first or UK first, and, let those other countries take care of their people. We need to take care of our own. Well, your own is the entire world. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. Borders are just an idea. It's something we made up. Same as money. Same as rules, same as rights and privileges and all these things. They're all just ideas. They're just things that people came up with and gave to us and said, you should do this. And if you don't, we'll probably hurt you. And then we just started doing it. Because we didn't want to get hurt. We were scared. That's how it's done. So what I wanted to talk about today is another one of these silly notions, and it's basically anything that's dogmatic or fundamentalist. When you start noticing dogma and fundamentalism and what someone's talking about, or an idea that's being spread around, or anything like that, absolutist. So, there's dogmatic and fundamentalist nationalism. There's dogmatic and fundamentalist, spirituality. There's the politically correct culture that South Park did a really, really great job of just skewering them. Just the PC, you PC bro, you PC, better check your privilege. Shit like that. That's dogmatic, it's fundamentalist, and it works on, basically redefining language and then reinforming people of how they should be speaking and the words they should be choosing and all of these other things. It doesn't work. Maybe the intention's in the right place, as the intention usually is, but ego takes over. That's the thing about these things. They treat it as though it's the same for everybody. Now, there are many things in life that are the same for everybody. The interconnectedness of life. The desire for peace and love and security. The need for basic necessities like food and shelter. And family and nurturing and love and all that stuff. That's all universal. But experiences, and therefore personalities and egos, those are unique. Every single one of you is a special little snowflake. Yes, you are. You're unique. Because no one else has had your experiences. Ever. That combination of experiences is 100% unique. It's never happened before, and it will never happen again. That which you are, that which has been incorporated into your current form and the lens through which you perceive reality. But the flip side of that is that language is a big ego thing, because it's all ideas. So when you're trying to shape someone's ideas by correcting their language and telling them to check their privilege, all these things are very ego-provoking. They're triggers in themselves, right? You go up to someone who's, generally a good person, who generally doesn't, wish anyone ill and doesn't think of himself as better than anyone, and, but might have absorbed some, what's the term, prejudices, biases. Because we all do, and that is the truth for everyone. We all have biases. We all have prejudices. They're all ego, but they're there. We recognize trends and patterns. Our brains are pattern recognition engines. So we solve problems. We notice patterns, and then we find out where the problem is. Where is the pattern not repeating? Where is the pattern not doing what it's supposed to do? So, we're pattern recognition engines, and as such, we pick up on things that are around us, and trends, and languages, and phrases, and just everything. We incorporate them unconsciously. So the way to address these things is not to, accuse people of basically being racist, which is what you're doing if you're attacking them on that basis. But rather to say, might be better to say it this way, or, why do you think that way? Start from a point of understanding. But the dogmatic, fundamentalist nature of the politically correct culture is that everyone needs to be put in their place, or shamed, or just generally ostracized, and there's a bullying aspect to it, and I've certainly seen it, not really directed at myself, but I've certainly seen it on Twitter and social media, and not so much in real life. People are pretty relaxed where I'm at, but I'm also not on a college campus, so I'm pretty sure it's not so relaxed there at the moment. In any case, it's dogma, it's fundamentalism, it's absolute. It's like, this is how it must be. It becomes a religion in and of itself, and a cult, where if you're not part of it, then you're just not going to be listened to. You're not going to be, you'll be ostracized, and you'll be called names, and you'll be shamed for daring to disagree or daring to go against what they're trying to affect. But what they're doing is counterproductive. It's obnoxious. It's obnoxious is what it is. No one's arguing, I don't think, who's not part of the PC culture. No one with a brain is arguing that racism is gone, that it's over and done with, that no one's experiencing prejudice, no one's experiencing bigotry. Anyone who pays attention at all knows that it exists. They understand it's a problem. You know? And we can have discussions. We should have discussions. Discussions that just make people understand basic truths. Like, we're all one. We're all interconnected. That simple fact, the fact that our DNA is, 99.999 whatever % the same across the board. There's a tiny, tiny variation genetically, and my numbers are probably not exact, but the point is it's a tiny, tiny variation genetically between any human. More variation between men and women because of the different chromosome, XY versus XX, than there is between a African man or a Caucasian man or an Asian man or so on. There's more variation between men and women than there is between ethnicities. It's a nonsense concept. We're not different people. We've just evolved different traits, just like it's exactly the same thing as bigotry towards blonde people, bigotry towards people with larger than size 10 feet. It's a genetic trait. But we're human. We're all human. We have the same brain structures, we more or less. People from different areas of the earth that might have had different histories might have more or less, muscle mass on average genetically, or more or less cortisol levels or testosterone levels or whatever. But generally speaking, we're all the same. And that's all a product of environment. It's all a product of culture and society and everything involving that. But racism, on that very basis, is nonsense, and we can attack it based on facts. We don't need to start rearranging people's language in order to change their thinking. What we need to do is introduce concepts that absolutely negate or void the dysfunctional thinking and the fear and the ignorance that causes racism. You have to adjust dysfunctional thinking, not provoke, a battle of wills, so to speak. Introduce new ideas that make the old ones irrelevant, that break apart the old ones. Obviously, religion is the main source of dogmatic thinking. It's where we see it in its most pronounced way. We see it with extremist Christians who believe the Bible literally and want to bring about Judgment Day, End of Days, whatever you want to call it, Second Coming. They want to bring that about. They take it literally. And what we're doing is we're reading stories, allegorical stories, meant to have a moral or a point, a meaning, but were never intended to be taken literally. You can find books of spiritual philosophy from, Zen and Tao and Confucianism and the lot in China that you picked it up and you start reading it, and, Zen koans and Taoist poetry and all these things are not meant to be taken literally. They just have a point. And the point is usually quite logical. And in fact, these points exist. Some of the same ones within Christian scripture. But because we're looking at it and we're seeing it as, a directive from God rather than, us all being God and having collectively made it out of the information that was available at the time, we can't separate the idea that it can be a source of good without using human interpretation on it, right? And the literal aspect of it is absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't fit with anything. It doesn't even fit with itself. So anyone who's ascribing to it literally is certainly sending their mind in absolute loops of cognitive dissonance, where you have ideas working against other ideas inside your own head and they don't work. It's all dogma and fundamentalism, and it doesn't work. Nothing is absolute. You know, the nature of Taoism and Buddhism and Zen and all of these things is that they're based on the now. And they understand that the now is ever changing. It is constantly adjusting, and we are constantly adjusting with it. And that makes the truth become something that is changing. And therefore, they don't put their reliance on the books. They don't put their reliance on the writings, the ideas. Because they're just ideas. They're just signposts to point the way. And the Bible is no different. Torah is no different. The Quran is no different. They're guideposts to point the way. But some cheeky buggers, came along and they turned the guidepost so it pointed the wrong way. But everyone still believed that the guidepost was infallible. That it could not possibly be wrong under any circumstances. You see how silly that is, because the humans made the guidepost, and then some other humans adjusted the guidepost. And what a Taoist or a Buddhist would do upon seeing the guidepost is they would look at it carefully, because they're in the now, they're paying attention, they're not taking things literally, they're wary, they're cautious, they're observant. They take their time. And they take everything in the now. So a Buddhist or a Taoist would not blindly follow the path because the guidepost said so. They would examine the guidepost and figure out where its origins were. They wouldn't assume that it was made by a god and that it was absolutely perfect. Maybe they would see that it had been broken or bent or adjusted because it didn't seem to quite fit in the ground anymore. You see, it wouldn't quite fit. Or maybe they would take it and they would give it a chance. But they still wouldn't believe it fully. They might follow the path for a little bit, but if it didn't look like it was taking them the right way, they would turn back and try a different one. And so you see, it's a way of looking at things in the now with the information you have right now. Not relying on information from bygone eras that is almost certainly out of date. We wouldn't accept the word of a doctor who was still operating on knowledge from the 1500s and refused to accept any from today. We wouldn't let them operate on us or our loved ones or anyone. We would have them arrested and have their license taken away. We wouldn't accept it. It's dogma, it's fundamentalism, it's a refusal. It's a refusal to accept what is and the way that things work, and trying to force your will on the world. That's what dogma and that's what fundamentalism is. When you try to force your will on the world, rather than letting the merits of it stand for themselves. Vegans are also, generally speaking, dogmatic and fundamentalist. I say generally speaking because I know many who aren't and who do it for the right reasons. Who do it out of compassion, who do it to be healthier, and to reduce their negative impact on the world. And those people don't feel the need to evangelize or to proselytize the masses and to badger them or to judge others for what they do and what they eat. Because they know it's counterproductive. But dogmatic vegans, fundamentalist vegans, borderline religious vegans, have a need to convert everyone around them. And I'm vegetarian. I take the middle ground on this, and I make no apologies. I source my eggs and my dairy as best I can within my budget from, ethical sources, from neighborhood, community sources. So the money's staying in my community, and so I know the animals are treated well. But vegans just are absolutists. You can't go to a second-hand store and buy leather shoes and still be considered a vegan. Do you see? When those shoes would have simply become garbage and been added to the waste pile. They don't look at the gray area, at the wiggle room with these concepts. They don't look at how things actually work and try to make it fit with that. So if you believe in a cause, it's well and good to believe in the cause, and it's well and good to put your ideas out there. It's well and good to challenge other ideas that oppose it. But trying to force it or trying to judge other people for their opinions, judging them as a person for what they believe, that doesn't work. And it won't get your message across. And that's what you're really trying to do. If you believe in it, if you believe that it's the right way to go, and if you want other people to see your passion and to take that as an inspiration, as a spark, to follow you into it with you, then if it's a good idea, it will stand on its own merits. It will stand on the passion and the love that you speak of it. You don't need to judge others for it. You don't need to attack anyone else for what they're doing. All you have to do is speak with passion and speak with love about what you believe. And if they don't take it, so be it. So be it. Go and create something else. You don't need to convert everyone who walks by. That's not your contribution to the world. And in fact, it makes your cause more discredited. It changes people's perceptions of what you're doing. From this person cares a great deal and wants to help the earth to this person cares a great deal about what I think of them. This person cares a great deal about how they present themselves to the world. Don't care about what they think of you for your ideas. Care about the ideas. Care about truth. If you care about the truth, and you speak the truth, and you speak with love, and you don't judge others, even if they're wrong, even if they're very wrong, don't judge them. Because as soon as they see you judging them, they're going to think that you're a self-righteous jerk. And they will stop listening. And more than that, they'll go to their friends and they'll tell them about the self-righteous vegan jerk or the self-righteous religious jerk or the self-righteous PC jerk who came up to them and started telling them how horrible a person they are. And that's what they'll think about. And they won't think of it in the sense that I'm such a horrible person, I wish that hadn't happened. They'll think, wow, what a jerk. They don't know me at all because I'm really a good person and I try to do good and I try to help the world in every way that I can and I'm doing all that I can and I don't know what they want me to do and I don't know who they think they are that they can just come up to me and say that. That's what people think. It doesn't mean that your cause is wrong. It doesn't mean your ideas are wrong. But the methodology is counterproductive. It's a waste of your energy. It's worse than a waste. You're putting your energy into hurting your cause by trying to force it down people's throats and by judging them and by making them shut their ears and walk away and then spread the word so that other people now are biased against your cause from having heard their account. So if someone like you walks up to them in the future or starts a conversation or they start a conversation with them and they say, I'm a vegan, or I'm PC, or I'm this, or I'm that, some label that you've added to yourself, they're immediately going to have a bad taste in their mouth. They're going to be just waiting for the moment when the other shoe drops and they start getting judged, which means they're going to come into it with an already counterproductive state of mind because they've heard all these horrible things about people trying to force their ideas on them. So many carnivores dig in deeper into eating meat because they're told, you need to stop eating meat. So many smokers go smoke an entire pack or half a pack or whatever they can handle because someone told them you need to quit smoking. We know it doesn't work. It doesn't work on anyone. It doesn't work on kids. Putting your foot down, you get rebelliousness out of people. It's what we do. It's what our egos do. They fight back. We rationalize our thoughts and our ideas and our beliefs so that we believe it's part of us. So when you attack someone's beliefs, they think they're being attacked. And if they think they're being attacked, they're going to think, first of all, that you're the enemy, you're the threat, and second, that they either need fight or flight. They either need to leave or they need to attack you. Neither one of those things helps you. So when you see dogma and you see fundamentalism, you see absolutes, and you see people judging other people for what they think and what they do instead of trying to just speak about what they love. Speak about what they love. If you speak about what you love, then people will listen. If you speak about what you hate, sometimes people will listen, but more often than not, they'll come away from it thinking that you're a pretty shitty person. It's not that you are. It's not that you are, but it's a trap. It's another trap. It's another illusion, another method of separating people, dividing people, making people work against each other. The fundamentalism. Because it puts you in a club. It separates you from everyone else. As soon as you attach that label, as soon as you start to think of yourself in those terms, you're in the club. And if you think you're in the club, and if you think that everyone else is not in the club, then that creates an us and them mentality. And an us and them mentality is inherently conflicting. We can't think of ourselves like that. There's only us. There's not us and them. Maybe if extraterrestrials visit sometime in the not too distant future, there will be a them, only for a time though, because they're still us too. They're still a part of this universe. But the them will only be to describe the story. And then in a time, we'll see them as us too. It'll take time. The point is that dogma and fundamentalism can be found in any idea. You can find it in people who are addicted to working out. Fitness, all that stuff. Let's say you got to get to the gym. How dare you live your life without running and jogging and spending 20 hours a day training? Everyone wants to justify the way that they do things, to rationalize it, because people generally believe that whatever they do must be the best way of doing it. Right? So you find a whole group of people to surround yourself with who all do things that way. And it doesn't take long for a cult mentality to set in. Why don't all these other people learn this? The whole world will be a better place if everyone else did what we're doing right now. Well, in some ways, yeah, depending on what you're talking about. But you're ignoring the nature of the diversity of experience and the value of that. Especially now that we're all able to exchange our diversity of experience and opinion via the internet. We're able to use it to generate new ideas, new concepts about the world and about the structures within it and how they can all be better. Dogma and fundamentalism want to take everybody else and make them all uniform like you. Military is very dogmatic, very fundamentalist. We can see exactly what they think of individualism and setting oneself apart. It's all dogma. It's all fundamentalism. It's all absolute belief, and there's no room for debate or discussion about the many points. There's no room for whether or not it's right or wrong. It's a hierarchy. It's got its mini gods and deities and so on and so forth that you have to salute or come to attention for, or so on and so forth. Rituals and all that stuff. If you're part of a group that's sharing a cheat sheet about how to argue with people about it, then you're probably in the wrong group. Because good ideas don't need a cheat sheet to argue with people about. It's obvious. It's on the right there. It's truth on the face of it. All you need to do is say it and introduce it. Say why, what supports it. And there you go. There's the truth. It's falsehoods that need tons of rationalization and explanation and complexity. Someone says that the world is flat, they're going to have to come up with an awful lot of really, really overcomplicated explanations how that could possibly be true. We can watch the orbit of the moon, we can watch the shadow of the Earth on the moon's surface, showing us that it's all spherical. We can observe the other planets in the solar system with telescopes. It's not an illusion. Meteor showers, you can see the curve of the tail through the atmosphere. Comets and so on and so forth. But you have to create a dogmatic fundamentalism around it and crazy complex rationalizations to explain how none of that is true. It tells you what's wrong with it. You have to come up with some crazy complex rationalization about dinosaur fossils to explain them, when you can look at the fact at where they're found, how deep under the ground they're found, or what sort of rock they're found in, and all these other factors, carbon dating, and so on and so forth. And just say, this is how old they are. We found, these fossils of its food in its stomach. We found this and that. We know what happened. We found its skull was crushed by a rock. We know what happened. It died here and it sank in the mud pits, in the tar pits. God put them there to test our faith. Well, if he did put them there to test your faith, he did it many millions of years ago. Hundreds of millions of years ago, that's when God did it, to test your faith. And what? It must have been April Fool's Day, and he must have been waiting for the punchline for an awful long time. You see, the truth is the truth on the face of it. Falsehoods have to be rationalized, and you'll get experts who will create over complexity. Like the economy is more dogma, more fundamentalism. People believe in capitalism above all else, or communism above all else, or any one system above all else, with no openness to the notion that there could be different systems, there could be something else that we have not yet considered, that we do not yet have the technology to consider or to utilize. Like artificial intelligence controlled, distributed networking, resource allocation systems. We haven't thought about that. That's decentralized. There's no centralized economy involved. Could work. Probably work better. I would say. That's my personal feeling on it. Certainly be fairer, depending on who programmed the AI, or taught the AI, I should say. They learn. The point is that people are very dogmatic and fundamentalist about many, 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 many things. Dogma and fundamentalism rely entirely on concepts and ideas. The truth is now. What you pay attention to now. What information is available to you now. Not from 2,000 years ago, not from 3,000 years ago, not from any of it. Unless it aligns, unless that information makes sense with what we know now, collectively, as a species. And if it doesn't make sense with our best information that we have thus far, then it should probably be discarded or at least shelved for a while until it can be revisited with new eyes. We can't take things literally, and we have to think critically. And we have to see that if we find ourselves falling into a club, or a group, or an identity, or a label, we're probably not on the right path. And because anytime you do that, you're separating yourself from the rest of humankind and the rest of life on this planet. And you're saying that this is us and you are them. And we can see how division is dysfunctional. We can see how division causes pain and suffering and anger and fear and insecurity and scarcity. All of these things are caused by it. Religious war is that separation writ large. That club becoming more and more exclusive and more fundamentalist and more dogmatic. More and more militant, finally. And you'll always, by the way, coming back to centralization, you'll always find a handful of individuals at the top of all of this, who I guarantee you are profiting in many, many ways. Maybe they're profiting just by the acclaim and the praise and the worship that they get from their followers. Maybe they're profiting from literal donations that they're then taking and using on extravagant luxuries, because that happens. I would bet a good deal of money that the leaders of ISIS are not sitting around in squalor. If they are, they certainly have some pretty cool toys that they're spending their money on. Probably away from the troops so that they can't see them enjoying luxuries while they eat whatever they eat, which isn't very much. Dogma and fundamentalism, you will always find the hands of greed, the hands of ambition and ego at the helm of it. Always. Always. The people espousing these ideas, preaching them from the pulpit, you will find them to be conniving, greedy individuals. And as I've said before, it's not their fault. We shouldn't judge or blame them. But we should address the ideas that they're expressing with critical thinking, with skepticism, and with an understanding of what is now, an appreciation of the value of the truth. And however tempting it might be to be told that you are, let's say, an indigo child, or that you are one of the chosen ones, because of your beliefs, or your perception, or because you just started hanging out with these people. However nice it might be to have that expressed towards you, it's the start of a bad road, one way or the other, because you're separating yourself from everyone else. Ideas should be shared amongst all humanity, discussed and debated until we have it right. It should not be immune to disagreement. Nothing should be immune to disagreement. Nothing should be immune to debate or criticism, because we're wrong a lot. The way that we discover how to be right is by criticizing, not with the intent to harm, but the intent to help. Out of love. Love for the truth, love for one another, a hope that we can be better, a belief that we can be better. That's what we do it for. If you're doing it right. And you're not going to sign in up to any clubs, because no one group has the whole truth. No one group has all the information. We have to share it amongst everyone. We have to accept information from everyone. Entertain it for a moment. Examine it. Hold it up against what you know or what you believe or what experiences you've had. It's how we escape dogma. It's how we escape fundamentalist thinking. We encourage critical thinking. We encourage ideas to be challenged. We set a standard for ourselves about what we're going to believe. On what basis? Because someone says so? Well, someone is just like you. They're not better or worse. They don't have any more or less divine connection. They don't have any more or less insight into the mind of God than you do. They're all just the same. They don't have special abilities that you don't. They might have had experiences. They might have learned things. But you can tell dogmatic thinking from an idea that someone's just in love with. You can tell dogmatic thinking because they're almost trying to convince themselves at the same time as convincing you. They get frantic and desperate. And if you really, really don't give in at all, then they get angry. Because it's all ego. It's all about justifying their own actions and feeling like they're superior to someone else because they've got it right and you've got it wrong. We've all got it right and we've all got it wrong. We're all muddling through, learning, getting hurt and learning again, learning the hard way, learning from others' mistakes, so on and so forth. We're all learning constantly. That'll never end because the world will keep changing, and just when we think we've got it figured out, it'll change again and we'll have something new to learn. Society will change, our technology will change. How far we can reach out into space will change. We'll change as a result. It'll all keep changing. So the truth will always be flexible depending on what you're talking about. But the truth of our connection and the truth about the myth of separation is pretty on the face of it, as it is and as it's likely to continue for as long as we exist. I'm going to leave it there for now. Dogma, fundamentalism, they exist everywhere. They exist in all ideas and all clubs and groups to one degree or another. We got to get rid of it. We got to stop thinking that way. We have to stop living in absolutes. We have to stop working counterproductively to accomplish our goals. If we can do that, then your ideas are going to get listened to a lot more. Look at Bernie Sanders. He's inspiring in the sense that when he goes up and he talks with passion because he's talking about something he loves. He's not trying to get everyone to love him. He's trying to get people to love these ideas and this cause and this movement and this change and this shift. He's trying to get people to fall in love with that. He's talking because he loves it. Because he loves us. We love him for the same reason. We love each other for the same reason. Because we're all one. We're all connected. And we all need to look out for each other. So, dogma, fundamentalism, learn how to see them. Don't attack people, don't judge them for thinking that way. Just offer a different option and then leave them to think about it. If you have an idea and you want to express it, you want to put it out there, but expect it to be challenged and consider that to be a gift. Expect the challenge and the arguments and the debates to be a gift that allows you to profit from their minds. It allows you to see through their eyes. That's what they're sharing with you. It's a gift of perspective. And whether you agree with the perspective or not, it's still a gift. You're still seeing how someone else is going to interpret your ideas, how the masses will take it and what they're going to get out of it. And if they're getting something wrong, well, maybe you need to fine-tune the idea so it's more clear. If they disagree with something because you weren't fully descriptive about the idea, then maybe you need to add something. Take something else away that's contradicting. The point is, with dogma and with fundamentalism, there's not that openness to adjust one's ideas on the basis of other information. We need to be open to that. We need to accept criticism as gift. As something that you could not have done yourself. It's help. You can't see with someone else's eyes unless they offer it to you. And you can look at the intention behind the criticism. Is it criticism intended to help, or is it criticism just intended to hurt? Either way, they're still telling you something about themselves and the way that they see ideas like this and how their egos operate and how they react. It's still a gift. You're still getting insight through what they say. Don't take it personally. You're talking about your ideas, not you. Not you. Don't take it personally and don't attack. Judge what they say on the merits of their ideas, just as you would have them do for you. And if we can all do that without attacking one another's person, then we can all share our ideas and we can all get better. Okie doke, folks. I keep saying that I'm cutting it off, and I keep going. So, I am really ending the show now. Radically yours, I'm Ryan McKenna.